let me acknowledge the good work being done by our contractor here, Kamse, who is doing this Mariakani substation. Mariakani substation is meant to support the infrastructural flow of power from Suswa to the coast region, because as you may be aware or not, that the coast region is serviced from a T-line of Kindaruma at the moment, and it's an aging line. The coast region is substantially on diesel generation on power plants like Rabai, which run on diesel. And we need to bring more of the geothermal power through our infrastructure, which part of which you are seeing here today at 400 kV to the coast region. This project has been going on since 2019, and we are trying to accelerate to commission within the year so that we can push more of geothermal power to the coast region and continue to retire the diesel generation. We have recently retired Kipevu 2. There is one which is coming due for retirement. Another diesel plant is at Kipevu 1. And even as we continue to retire those ones, because they operate on economic order of merit of dispatch, plants like Rabai, which are more on energy charge rather than capacity charge, the use of heavy fuel oil will significantly go down as we get more of the geothermal baseload and more of the green energy, which also goes along with supporting the climate change and environmental issues. So as you can see for yourself, it's a big project. It's going on well. It's on schedule, subject and challenge to the COVID, which slowed us down a bit. But we are working hard to overcome the few challenges which we have heard from Kamse and from our engineers from Ketraco. And certainly before the end of this year, we want to officially commission the substation. The substation will also have a tee-off to Dongokundu, which is our economic zone, to facilitate acceleration of development of the special economic zone, which is basically our hubs, our development, our manufacturing hubs, which will also facilitate employment of our young people and basically push us up the GDP to manufacturing to GDP, maybe from the current percentage of 7 to 9 to what you have seen my colleague Moses Kuria talk to, wanting to move to 15%. So thank you very much, Moses. The science of energy mix is important, and it's never been important than today, when wind and solar do present a solution to the climate change issues, because it's renewable, it is clean, it doesn't hurt the environment. And so we'll continue to accelerate the generation on wind and solar, but we need the base load, because you do know that if you're running an industry and the wind is not there, you cannot stop and tell people go home. When the wind is there, you come tomorrow. So there is a balancing on the mix to make sure that you don't put too much of the intermittent power into the grid and hurt the continuous availability of energy for industry or for economic development. So yes, we are doing that. We'll continue to bring more wind into the grid. We'll continue to bring more solar into the grid, but we'll continue to make sure the mix is balanced so that we don't hurt the economy with too much intermittent power. But there are also technologies coming up today to ensure that we are able to store. The battery storage technology is developing quite fast, and that will help us. And the price is also coming down. That will help us to accelerate the development of some of these intermittent sources of power. Yes, we should basically see some, because you do know the mix today, diesel generation, we do pass the fuel charge cost to the bill of every customer. If we use less fuel, that means the bill will come down. Fuel charge today on our bill is about 40-60 ratio compared to, particularly because of the long drought. So if we can reduce the fuel charge, which is a pass-through cost to the customer, that will go down. But more importantly, even diesel generation, the capacity, the charges on capacity, and as we retire more of this. You also may be aware that the country has undertaken to go to net zero on emission of the various gases from generation using diesel by 2030. So some of the projects, like what has been asked by your colleague, in pushing more renewable to the grid, we will accelerate that, and by 2030 we'll see a progression of the retirement of the heavy fuel oil, which is what is causing significant cost to our bills, or to the cost of energy. But more importantly, you do know that we've been quite affected by the drought, and about 30 to 35% of our energy comes from hydro. And because of the poor hydrology in the last 5 years, we have run more of diesel. So sometimes you have heard some of our colleagues like Dr. David Ndi say, you would rather have expensive power than no power at all. Power trade. We have programs with our neighboring countries to support what we call least cost power development. You can have excess power and sell to your neighbors, not just for our economy. Like currently, we have a power trade with Ethiopia through the Ethiopia-Suswa line. We are currently, during the drought, we were able to pick up to 200 megawatts of energy from Ethiopia every day. The line, I think we've signed a PPA for 400 within the tariff period of 2023-2026. And so we have the opportunity to continue picking that power, or to sell power to them when we have excess. And that power comes into our economy at 6 cents US. 6.5 cents US compared to diesel generation, which is at about an average of 25 cents US. You can see that power trade can really help. When they have excess energy, they can sell to us. We are building a line from Suswa, Lesos to, is it Tororo? To do power trade with Uganda and all the way to Rwanda. And we have a line from Isinya, Namanga, going to Tanzania to also facilitate our power trade with Tanzania. And those lines will run to what we call the Southern Power Pool, all the way down to South Africa, so that we have a more robust support inter-country trade in energy. I know we've talked so much about intra-trade within Africa in all the other commodities, but even with power we can do great inter-trade and support each other and move more out of the least cost power development policy.